Yes, we are here.
Hello. I was wondering if you could tell us about the origin of shame and how can we deal with that?
Origin of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Shame has been used for many, many years as a form of manipulation. The origin is quite far, far away. We do understand that humans prefer linear. We would like for you, we will, one moment, we will finish the sentence that humans prefer linear progressions.
Mm-hmm.
Shame is one of the emotions. Think of it as you decide, as the soul decides to come to earth, it decides to come to earth to experience emotions. We will try to make it as easy for humans to understand as possible. Imagine that as you come down, you get a bag full of emotions. They could be very pleasant emotions. They could be emotions of joy, emotions of love. But the main reason why souls decide to come to earth is to experience the not so pretty emotions: guilt, shame, anger, frustration. Even though frustration, we would say, is in between, because frustration actually helps you grow, but we digress. Let's go back to shame. Shame is one of the emotions that is in your bag of emotions that you came here to experience.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you decide to carry it with you your whole life until the death of the body is up to the human, meaning the conscious mind.
So when the shame is, we experience shame, is it like comes from a belief, subconscious belief, or is just an emotion that is like present, or it has to be stored somewhere?
Shame comes from, shame was taught. It is something that is being taught. It is not something that comes from the subconscious. Meaning you were taught to feel shame. You were made to feel shame at a specific point in time as a form of control or manipulation. Again, we do understand that we use quite negative words, but we would like for you to understand that nothing is done here accidentally. Therefore, if this person is making you or doing something to give you the emotion of shame, the souls have agreed on the other side to do so. Does that make sense? Because imagine you have a bag of different emotions and you want to experience them all.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of the experience.
What if you decided you don't want to feel shame anymore? How one would move forward?
That needs to be a conscious decision.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start working on it, because for humans, as you grow older, we are assuming you're asking from a standpoint of a grown person. Is that correct?
Yes.
As humans grow older, you create patterns for yourself. If this happens, I feel this. If that happens, this emotion comes in. So for humans, the easiest way to let go of the emotion is to let it come in and recognize, this is what I'm feeling. I am feeling shame. and then in a way, step back or step aside from the emotion of shame and look at it from a different side and say, but I have nothing to be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
Because shame is not real, same as fear. Shame is a form, again, we will say this was a form of manipulation. Therefore, you need to retrain yourself to not feel it. Does that make sense? So as you feel it, we will repeat, as you feel it, you recognize that this is what I'm feeling, and you step aside. You consciously decide, I do not enjoy this emotion, therefore I'm going to step aside. You're in a way looking at it from a third perspective. You can tell yourself, this is not real. And as you tell yourself, you can also tell yourself, I'm choosing to release this emotion and pull it through the body out from your feet.
Interesting. Can we do the same when we feel fear?
Yes. You can also turn during the fear, any emotion that you no longer want to have. Again, what you're doing is you are retraining. Does that mean you're going to have to do this every single time? Yes, every single time until it becomes so automatic, actually not to feel it anymore. Because as you do it more and more often, let's say we'll take fear. So the fear comes in. Notice where it is in your body. For some humans, it will be in your stomach. That's also where shame likes to reside. For some, it will be in the chest area. And the key is to recognize it, to consciously tell yourself, uh-oh, I have fear. And then you start analytically breaking it down. What is the fear of? It could be, I'm fearing something that will happen in the future. And then you analytically tell yourself, but I have no proof that it will happen in the future. And so on and so forth. Play with that. It will work for some. It might not work for others. But also, once you recognize that you are in fear, deep breaths. Also, we will ask you, how much of a fear? Because fear and large quantities of it bring humans to severe anxiety. If we are in a severe anxiety, or any type of fear really, breath work is what we'll recommend first. In a way, there's no one way of dealing with it because humans are all very different. Therefore, we tell you to play with it. Breathing, recognizing the emotion, deciding whether you want it or not, and then deciding, well, if I don't want it, you can choose at that moment in time to substitute it with something else. You can substitute that emotion of fear with, let's say, joy or gratitude. How do you do that? Very simple. You tell yourself what you're grateful for at this moment in time. Right this moment in time. So we already gave you different ways of how to do it. We would say try them all, try some of them, and see which ones work for you. You can also sit with that emotion. When you recognize that you're in fear, you recognize that it's not needed, we will say, because there's no basis for it. you're not in danger right now. And you sit with that emotion and you feel it through. And we would also recommend breathing through that as you're sitting with the fear.
Fear is an emotion?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Fear is an emotion, yes. And for many humans, it actually resides within the body.
I see.
All the emotions, if you stack them up, they will, and they do reside within the physical body.
So if they reside in the physical body, does that mean they come from the past?
For the most part, yes.
Oh, I see.
It is a taught. We're trying to find the word, but it's kind of, you were trained for it.
I see.
It's not necessarily that the person or people who trained you knew what they were doing, but you were trained because as a child, everything comes from childhood. Because as a grown-up, when you experience, we will take an example. Here's an example. If someone is knocking on the door, you're a grown-up, someone is knocking on the door, you don't know who is there, you start experiencing fear.
Yes.
But you are a grown-up. That fear comes from childhood. When you were small, you were a lot more vulnerable, and it was easier for those that are bigger than you are and older than you are to harm you. So that fear started in childhood. It could also have been that you were told by your parents, never open the door when someone is knocking because it could be someone very bad. So as a child, you remember that. Again, so therefore, it's like you were trained. So now, as a grown-up, when someone knocks on the door, you feel that same fear as you were a child. You essentially are being brought back to being a child because your mind, your conscious mind, in a way, does not understand or has not come to an understanding that, hold on, I'm a grown-up now. Yes, you can still get hurt, granted, yes, but you're not a small child anymore where everything might be dangerous. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what can you say about doubts? How can we deal with doubts?
Doubts are a conscious mind. We will also say, yes, it comes from childhood. We will start from there. Let us explain how. As a child, as a soul comes in, and the small child is the closest to the source, is the closest vibrationally to its original self. And when you were a child, you had no doubts. So doubts were also something that you were taught. How? You shall ask. Is when you were a child, we're going to give several examples. And let's say you fell full. You did not want to eat anymore, but you were told, no, you need to finish what is on the plate. Meaning you were taught how to doubt your own sense of fullness. So we deal with doubt similarly. Also, how the doubt is created is by you hearing constantly that what you think is right for you is not. So now, as a grown-up, when you have doubt, sit with that emotion. As you sit with that emotion, ask yourself questions. Why am I doubting myself? What is the doubt about? We would like for people, this is a request, everyone has free will, to learn to observe your emotions and to dig where is that emotion coming from. Because most likely, when doubt comes in, it is again, you were trained to doubt the self. Now we're doing untraining, and untraining is doing exactly what the doubt says not to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But it is important for the human mind to understand where the doubt started. So if you sit with emotion and you feel it through and you're like, oh, I see where that doubt started. Because digging is needed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It might not be needed for everyone, because some people will just take what we said, do the opposite of what the doubt says. If you doubt, that means a yes, let's do it, right? Some people will just take that and run with it, but others will not be able to do that and have trouble with it.
I see. I want you to clarify this important topic. So for me, coming from religious background, I was taught to fear the evil and demons and all of that. And I didn't really realize how big this in my subconscious and until I started doing ayahuasca and I would see all these visions. And how can one who grew up in such background with the religion fears and stuff rethink thoughts about all the demons and evil? I want you to explain what it's like for you. How do you think of that and how the human can overcome this fear, especially someone who works in non-physical realms? I feel that it's like a block for me to access as much as I want because I have this fear of seeing evil entities.
Well, we're going to take you first. So this is connected to you. Trust. It has to do with trust. How can you work in other realms, you ask? You need to trust. You have a team. You know you have a team. The trust is that my team is always with me. How you can do that? You can literally tell that to yourself every morning. I trust my team. I trust the universe. Whatever words you want to use, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You can ask them to, you can ask them for physical backup, meaning if you close your eyes, you will feel them behind your back, meaning literally holding you up and being there with you. Does that make sense? So whenever you go to a different realm, you think you are alone, but you're not. Your whole team is with you.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if we talk about how to break those beliefs need to be broken by the conscious mind. Because the fear, again, stands with the conscious mind, the same as doubt. That is not a product of the higher self or the higher realm, is the product of the 3D concept or the product of the earth school. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So what can we say to our conscious mind to redefine those beliefs?
conscious mind is very good at being trained and retrained. What you're doing right now, you are retraining your conscious mind. And again, you can tell your conscious mind because you, as someone who works with other realms, you can call them devils, you can call them whatever you want, but you have an understanding that this is just energy, lower frequency energy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if you tell your conscious mind, look at yourself in the mirror and start retraining, I am protected. Because you are frequency-wise already above those lower frequencies. Therefore, the only way they can affect you is if you decide to go into fear. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So retraining the same way that you were trained. How were you trained as a child? Repetition. Therefore, we're going to retrain with repetition. You repeat it to yourself until you believe. Until your conscious mind believes to the point where when you see in a different realm lower frequency energy, you already know that I am above that and you are not allowed anywhere near me or attach yourself to me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We do hope this was helpful.
Yes.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I am looking. Another question about that, I was wondering, how is demon different from a shadow aspect that we need to heal? Are they the same? What is this shadow term that people use? We have shadows. How is it different from demons, or is this the same thing?
We would like, again, to change the idea of a demon. Demon, from a human perspective, is a creature. Isn't that so?
Mm-hmm.
It has arms and legs. We would like for you to look at it rather not as a demon, but again, as a lower frequency energy. Everything is energy. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So now back to your question, to the shadow side, to the dark side. Yes, you can equate the two, because when you go through the shadow side or the dark side, you are getting rid of lower frequencies and you are elevating in frequency. The only difference is you are transmuting what you have into higher frequency. We don't want people to think that as you're going through or connected to your shadow self, that you release it and it goes to someone else. No. You are transmuting that lower frequency, let's call it darker frequency. You are moving it and changing it to higher frequency, therefore more light.
Mm-hmm. I see. When I was doing shamanic training, I had to realize that I had to close my energetic gates that I didn't know were open. I was wondering if you could explain about this. What are energetic gates and how they sometimes open like that when people don't know they're even open?
There are a lot of people whose energetic gates are open. A lot of the times they get open when you go through certain processes that we've spoken already. Ayahuasca is one way of opening it wide open. Yes, not for everyone, but for those who are ready. Those gates are also used by the spirits when, let's say, as the humans call it, mediums, connect to the spirits. Each one of you has a gatekeeper that is in charge of those gates, but you need to connect.
Like the dragon.
It could be a dragon. For some, it's a dragon. For others, it is a humanoid-like person. It can be Pegasus, like it is for the body that we're speaking through. For the conscious body that we're speaking through, it is a Pegasus. That was her choice. Therefore, as you connect to the gatekeeper, connection is not a long process. You can choose to connect or not. We would actually say that as well. The best way to connect is through meditation. Put an intention in and tell them to shut the gates. You can create a schedule if you want, that I'm open from this hour to this hour. Otherwise, there will be spirits coming in, messages coming in, all the different things coming in as you still have to live this 3D life. Did we answer your question? We can talk more.
And talk more. It's a very interesting topic.
So you can connect and tell your gatekeeper when to close, who to let in, and when to open and when to close. For humans,
these energetic gates,
yes.
These energetic gates are for all spirits. It's not just for bad spirits.
You can choose. Again, we would not recommend letting in the bad spirits. We wouldn't call them bad. Lower frequency. Lower frequency, we would not recommend letting them in. Therefore, you tell your gatekeeper who you're allowing in. We want you to understand you are in charge. You are always in charge. This is your realm. Even though you're going and you're doing work within different realms, you're still part of this realm. Therefore, anything that happens within this realm, you are in charge.
Why is it so hard for us humans to step fully into our power? Why is it easier to play small?
Because in order to step into your higher being, you need to basically shed everything that you thought that you are. And for humans, can be painful, emotionally, even physically. But once you start doing it, it gets easier. But also remember, if it was easy, then this wouldn't be school. It wouldn't be a challenge. Yes.
I was wondering, how can I stop caring how others perceive me?
Ask yourself, why is it important to you? And work on that. Because again, it all comes from childhood. It all comes from your training. And the training was, don't do this. What will the neighbors think? And that teaches you, oh, their opinion is important. But it's not. So you are no longer a child. Therefore, ask yourself, why is it important for you as a grown-up? Because as a child, it was important because you were told not to embarrass your parents. Whereas now you're grown up. You're no longer dependent on someone else, on their will, on how they feel. You are your own being. In a way, childhood is there to prepare you to come back to the self. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Meaning in your childhood, you lose what the self is. That is part of the education process. So that as a grown-up, you can actually find yourself. That is the reason for coming down here in a way. You're basically forgetting who you are twice. You forget who you are when you come, and then you forget who you are here once again as you go through the growth process. Or you can say you forget even more. It's up to you. Some still remember, some remember more, some remember less, some remember nothing. But what you are going through right now is a journey to self.
So in my childhood, I felt like nobody cares about me, and this feeling carried over in my adult life so much that even right now as I'm talking to you guys, I feel like nobody cares, like you guys don't care about me. It's so weird. How do I deal with that? It's almost like this permanent disconnection from everybody.
The easiest way to deal with it is to connect to self.
To connect to myself?
Yes. Meaning, well, the only person that could save you is you. Therefore, the only person that needs to or can heal, because what you require is the healing of the child. Therefore, the only person who can make you feel better is you. But which you needs to feel better? The child you. Therefore, you need to become that protector for that child. That person who understands, respects, cares for that child. Because the emotion that you're giving us, as you specified it, is not an emotion that you have. You are having it right now. We would like to point that out, yes. But it is not a grown-up emotion. This is a child emotion. Do you understand that? Therefore, that is where you need to go back to the childhood. So for that, we will give a basic way of doing it. Whenever you feel that emotion, you can either do it consciously, come up to the mirror and tell yourself that I love you, I care for you, I will never leave you, I will always be there for you. Whatever it is that you as a child needed to hear from a grown-up. Make it a habit to do it every single day. You can also meditate and see yourself as a child and come up to yourself and hug yourself and wipe the tears of your child self and tell her that you are loved, you are enough, you are beautiful, you are smart, I love you, I respect you, I am proud of you.
Okay.
That is what heals. Because it could be 1,000 people can come up to you right now and tell you that they care for you and tell you that they love you and tell you whatever it is that you are missing, but you will not be able to accept it. You will not believe in it in a way. Because the truth is, no one can save you but you. And we're not talking about saving from a burning car. You do understand. We would like for everyone to understand that. We mean internal feelings, internal pain. Same as nobody can make you happy except for you. Because we can tell you that we care for you. We can tell you that we love you, and we do care for you. But it will be useless until that child feels safe. And the only way she will feel safe is if you make her feel safe. You are her grown-up now that she never had but needed. This way you will heal your child self and those childhood emotions will not, with time, will not show up in your grown-up life.
Okay, I was wondering also, could you explain about sex and energy exchange and how can we, does it always, the energy of the other person has to stay in our energy field? How long does it stay? Can we not have it stay there? How does it work?
In order for the energetic exchange through sex to work properly, we're trying to choose the correct words. This is quite a big topic in itself, therefore we will just focus on the question that you were asking. And this pertains specifically to you. the energy that stays is what you, as a constant giver, that is what you are agreeing to keep for the other person. Does that make sense?
Could you explain?
So as the sex energy exchange happens, because the two of you are not on the same energetic frequency, and you are more of a giver rather than taker, in this way, your process of giving is actually taking the energy that's you're taking on the energy that's not pleasant, we will say. Does that make sense?
I do it subconsciously.
Yes.
How can I change that?
That is why we're saying it is a very large topic. Because the person needs to be on the same frequency and also willing to not just dump things on you, but do an exchange. Because as the exchange happens, that energy, again, it's not, we don't want to say negative, but for the time being, we'll say it's the energy that you no longer need. So as the sexual act happens, what is supposed to happen is you release the energy that you no longer need, the other person releases, and it creates a swirl of energy. And in a way, within that swirl of energy, it cleanses itself out.
Oh, from both partners?
Yes. When we look at what's happening to you, because you are a giver, you only receive the energy. So the other person has extracted the energy that no longer serves him. But because you don't know how to take, you keep it within you. When we say take, meaning actually give your energy off. Does that make sense?
So what I understood is that for people to have, and for me too, to have sex that is good, we have to have partners that are equally involved in a relationship.
Yes. Right? When you say good, it is also very confusing in a way, because it can be good because it will feel on the physical level, it will feel good. Right. Yes. But it does not mean that the exchange happened and that the cleansing of the energy has happened.
Yeah, for me as an energetic being, I feel that something is off. So I actually don't enjoy the physical pleasure so much because I feel the effects of energetic so much that is not good for me. So I'm like, why is this happening? Now I understand that, like, energetics of it working in its own way, and it's important to energetically match with a partner you want to exchange energy with.
We will actually go further with that because the humans have made the sexual act as just an act. Therefore, the female still holds the energetic exchange, whereas the males have put it that this is just an act of a release for me, and I'm out and I left. So the male needs to also understand that it is an exchange. It is not that the female is not a function of someone who's just there to hold your unneeded energy. that it needs to be an exchange. Again, this has come in the human evolution. It's funny, evolution, it's supposed to be evolving, meaning getting better. In certain things, humanity did. In certain things, it lost a lot of energetic things or things on an energetic level. But it has come that its male is there to just release, and that's it. Without just doing the function. Do you understand what we're trying to say?
Yes.
Rather than making it a bonding experience where you can take the energy and clean it, and whatever it is that you want to do with it, you can take it back, you can release it to Gaia for anyone else to use. It's whatever you want to do with it. But the male of the human species at this point in time are very much not at that level of understanding, or even they're not on the energetic level. Some are, very few, who understand what it is. But for the majority, again, female is used is just someone to give that energy to.
So as women, I know it's like majority of us that overgive. How can we break that pattern within ourselves so we're not a match to a man like that?
Are we talking from a sexual perspective or in general?
We're talking about sexual. Let's talk about sexual.
Well, it actually is all connected because and the human females are coming out of it at this point in time, slowly but surely. But the reason why females are givers, that was set up in a way on purpose, in a way not. Because females are nurturers. Females are the creators. Because females create the human being.
Mm-hmm.
If there were no females, we would not have a vessel to create new life. Granted, a male is also needed. Therefore, there needs to be that connection of both being balanced and equal. So at this point in time in human life, it is not equal. Because the male has decided many thousands of years ago that it wants to be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, creating this balance. So the way for a human, and now we're talking about a specific female, to no longer be just a giver, is to sit down and decide what she wants. Because if you're constantly a giver, that means your needs are not met and you have put them aside so far away that you don't even know what you need. So it comes from the female. Again, we will repeat, no one can save you but you. Therefore, it is a work of every person to work on themselves and decide what is it that I like, what is it that I want. And it starts with basic things. What kind of milk do I like? Make it very basic. What kind of toilet paper does my butt enjoy? Make it very basic, but think about it. Because a lot of the times, the female has become so used to doing what everyone else wants. Meaning mostly the male. What is the decision? Well, I'm going to do what the male wants. And as they change males, what they like changes. But in truth, it's not what they like changes. It's the male has changed and what he likes has changed because each man is an individual. But the female has forgotten. Again, not every female, but in general, many have. And we would also like to point out there are many males with predominantly female energy that are also mainly givers. Therefore, we cannot say it's male are bad, women are good. No. There's nobody who's bad, there's nobody who's good. It all just needs a balance. That is where work on self comes in. If you don't like that everyone takes advantage of you, stop giving all the time. We understand that it sounds so easy and maybe in a way harsh. But when you think of, well, everyone always takes advantage of me, when you have those thoughts, that means your life is out of your control, but you are not a child anymore. As a child, yes, in a way, you had less control over your life because they're grown-ups who are deciding things for you. You're no longer a child. Therefore, we do also understand different circumstances are different. For the majority of people, you're not in danger of doing what you like. So when you say to yourself, everyone takes advantage of me, that is a perspective of a child. Also perspective of someone who is a victim. It's in a way you're refusing to take responsibility for yourself. Because the moment you take responsibility for yourself, you will start seeing that this person took advantage and this person took advantage. Well, I don't want to be in contact with those people, no matter how close they are within my family. Any more questions?
I think we're good. I was just wanted to see if you have any message for me before we close.
Trust. The message is trust. You are already doing everything that needs at this point in time. Therefore, we'll just say trust. Mainly trust yourself.
Thank you so much for helping us, and we love you so much.
Wow, that was a lot of stuff.
I know they started and they take so much time to answer a question, but they went from like starting energy exchange and sex and it went to female male domination